Hey nerds, it's your favorite. Today we'll be delving into a interesting topic. Loader, the bionic powerhouse. The Loader is a slow but powerful bruiser that can use her grappling hook to uniquely navigate the environment. She starts with a solid 160 health and gains 48 per level, gains 2.5 health per second and gains 0.5 per level, has 12 damage, 2.4 per level, and has 7 speed and 20 armor, both which do not actually increase on their own. Loader boasts a hit and run play style, but because of her passive barrier, can very easily stay in a fight for extended periods of time. Loader is unlocked via completing Guidance Offline. Loader is unlocked via completing Guidance Offline. To gain this achievement, you have to go around the map Siren's Con, destroy 6 of the vulture eggs that look like this. Once 5 of them have been destroyed, you'll receive this message in chat. You hear it, this is worrying. Or, in other words, you fucked up. Once you destroy about the 6th egg, a new one appears. The whirring grows loud. After about 2 seconds, the ally worship unit will spawn in the middle of the map near the pillar and start shooting. The ally worship unit has 2 attacks. It'll shoot balls at you vertically or horizontally, and when they hit the ground, they will create slowing zones. Once the ally worship unit is dropped to about half of its max health, it will gain a shield equal to about half of its max HP and gain a new attack. It will spawn high damage fuck you zones on the ground. Standing in these slow you, and if you stay for the full duration, they will activate, launching you up and doing crazy fucking damage. Like, who the fuck thought this was a good idea, but whatever. Anyways, after about the 5th time of doing this, it will no longer grant a shield, so if your damage is lackluster, it's not impossible to beat. One very easy way to get this achievement is by using Rex and using your ultimate on the pillar from the opposite side of the ally worship unit, like so. This will cause it to slam into the pillar, and any guy can tell you how much that fucking hurts. Killing the ally worship unit will result in it dropping 1 red item for every player in the game, and should unlock our waifu, Loader. Loader is a close-range tank burst hybrid. Loader is one of the few characters with many strengths and very little weaknesses. Her strengths consist of dealing a fuck ton of damage, being quick as fuck, having above average HP on top of gaining a barrier. It has no fall damage and is thick as fuck. Her downsides consist of having lackluster control of air enemies due to her lack of a ranged basic attack, having dick slapping contests or fighting for extended periods of time so you get acquainted, hard to master the movement of, and is reserved exclusively for me, so fuck off. Loader's passive is Scrap Barrier. Loader's thick thighs keep her impervious to fall damage, and when enemies catch these hands, Loader gains a temporary barrier. She gains 5% of her max HP bar as barrier, and throwing hands at multiple enemies does not increase the bonus barrier. However, some attempts I have made to recreate this prove that they do give you extra per enemy hit. So, I can't say officially, but I do believe that you get more barrier based on how many enemies you hit. So I do believe the wiki's wrong in that regard. Loader's only current primary option is called Knuckle Boom, or as I like to call it,
Super Knuckle, Knuckle, Bill Buckle, Banana Truffle Hitter.
but since I can't say that, we'll just stick with the Slap. The Slap swings at nearby enemies, dealing 320% damage with a proc coefficiency of 1, and knocking small enemies back. It's a basic move that you won't use late game, but early game is a godsend. Loader's first secondary option is Grapple Fist. This actually does no damage, but instead grabs onto terrain or enemies, and will fling Loader towards what is grabbed. The cooldown is 5 seconds. Loader's second secondary option is Spiked Fist. This has a cooldown of 5 seconds just like the Lamer Brother, but it actually does 320% damage, the same as the basic attack. It will grab onto terrain and pull Loader towards it. However, if you grab onto an enemy, it will do one of 2 things. It will either stun the enemy and pull them towards you, or it will stun the enemy and pull you towards them. It just depends on the size. This ability is unlocked via the Loader Swing By challenge. Basically, all you have to do is make it to a moment fractured, the Celestial Portal, in under 25 minutes. Pretty easy to be honest. Note the cooldown will be refunded in both secondaries if it doesn't connect to anything. Now we're on to the juicy part of Loader, the utility. Loader's primary utility is Charged Scholar, or I like to call it the Mr. Fister. This ability introduces us to a new type of tag, exclusive to Loader and I believe Multi, called Heavy. Heavy is a tag that ramps up the damage dealt based on your velocity. No one knows the math yet, trust me, I fucking looked. So basically, the faster you're moving, the harder you'll hit, turning you from a semi-truck to a slightly faster semi-truck. When this ability is used, Loader will start charging up a punch, slowing her movement speed, stopping her if she's sprinting. However, she can start sprinting again immediately after she starts casting. The longer the charge is held, the further Loader will go and the damage increases, going from a 600% all the way to 2,700%, one of the highest values in the game. This gauntlet can be released early and reaches max charge around about 2.5 seconds. The cooldown is 5 seconds and it has a proc coefficient of 1, and the charge time can be sped up with attack speed. Now on to Charge Gauntlet's objectively cooler brother, Thunder Gauntlet. Thunder Gauntlet is Loader's secondary utility option. It has the exact same stats as Charge Gauntlet, except a teeny tiny change. That being, except this has the exact same stats as Charged Gauntlet, except a tiny change. That being, it charges up in about half a second. Can't be stopped mid-charge and does 2,100% damage on impact with the first enemy hit, with a cone that hits the first enemy hit and every enemy behind it for 1,000% damage. Also, you can't hold it and will cast automatically once fully charged. This is unlocked via completing the achievement Loader Earth Shatter. This one's pretty easy to accomplish. All you need to do is land a Charged Gauntlet at 300 miles per hour or higher. The easiest way to do this is probably wrapping around a tree with some speed upgrades until you reach max speed and then beating the fuck out of one of the stone golems. Note that the Loader can cast a pylon and secondary while charging the Gauntlet. Loader's primary special option is the M551 pylon, or as I like to say, a giant piece of shit, and has a cooldown of 20 seconds and a proc efficiency of 0.5. Once used, it will throw out a floating zappy ball thingy that hits up to 6 nearby enemies for 100% damage, shooting 14 times before it disappears. You can spawn up to 3 of them with cooldown reduction items, but nothing can be changed by the attack speed, unlike Loader's other abilities. To be honest, this ability is virtually useless, and the only real uses are for Wisp on the first loop or if you're trying to master mobility because it can be grappled and swung off of light terrain. Loader's secondary special option is Thunder Slam, or as I like to call it, the Grand Slammer. The ability you can't help but say yeet after every time you use it, and has a cooldown of 8 seconds and a proc efficiency of 1. Once used, Loader will do a little jump sword saying fuck you to anyone in a 5-mile radius under her, stunning all enemies hit in the AoE and dealing a flat 2,000% damage on impact. And note you can still hold onto a grapple on the slamming phase. This ability is unlocked via the achievement Loader Thunderdome. To do this, you must kill 3 other Loader clones in the Bulwark Ambry. Now, this one's a little more difficult, but it's still very possible. On stage 5, follow to the map to the secret teleporter and input this code. Once inside, play the stage like usual and 3 Loaders should spawn before you beat it. Once done, you will unlock the Grand Slammer. Loader's optimal build for a standard run is Spiked Fist, Thunder Gauntlet, and Thunder Slam. This build offers the most single target DPS Loader can muster, along with making up with their lack of AoE from Charged Gauntlet with the AoE from Grand Slam. If you wish to make a more mobility orientated build, I would recommend going Spiked Fist, Charged Gauntlet, and Pylon. While this build has a much inferior early game, it begins to shine in mid to late game, when you can start using attack speed buffs to speed up the charge rate of your Charge Gauntlet, as well as use Pylon for mobility AoE proc such as Ukulele and Behemoth. My favorite build is Spiked Fist, Charge Gauntlet, and Thunder Slam, though it's all up to you nerds to pick what you like best. Now we're on to the best items. Loader works really well with many items, however some items she just excels with. So for this section I will be focusing exclusively on the items for Loader that aren't universally good, examples being Tri-Tip or Crit Glasses. For white items or common items, the basics on other characters are even better on Loader. Focus Crystal and Monstitude Necklace work great because most of her abilities require her to be in melee range. Crowbar works nicely since most of her damage is front-loaded, making her initial bursts much more powerful. Syringe works great because both of her gauntlets scale off with attack speed. Backup Magazine, Energy Drink, and Paul's Goat have all help Loader tremendously, allowing her to get more damage due to her heavy tag on her gauntlets, as well as giving her more dodging and kiting potential. Now on to green items, or uncommon items. The best item hands down on Loader is Kajaro's and Ronald's Band. These items proc when 400% damage has been dealt, which for Loader is embarrassingly easy. On top of that, they deal 300% total damage, 200%, 250% for Ronald's, meaning it takes the initial damage and multiplies it by times 3. For example, let's say Loader hits an enemy for 1000 damage. This will then proc one of the bands to deal 3 times damage of the 1000, so 3000 damage at the end. This is incredibly useful since Loader can output insanely hard-hitting single attacks. ATG missiles are another incredibly useful item for Loader. However, instead of being activated when a certain damage is reached, it is activated at a 10% chance every time a shot with the proc efficiency connects. This, similar to Kajaro's Band, will deal 300% total damage, multiplying the amount of damage dealt from the initial blow. Note that the more stacks of bands and missiles will increase the total damage dealt linearly. Wax Quill is another great addition to the green roster, primarily because it can give Loader immediate velocity in a chosen direction, basically giving both her gauntlets a free damage boost if you sprint and jump before you release the punch. The final item is Rose Buckler, and not for many reasons other than Loader can sprint while charging her gauntlets, as well as weaving sprints in between her primary attacks, resulting in a frequent uptime on the Rose Buckler's armor increase. The Ukulele is another great item to have on Loader, since it has a 25% chance to do a total of 80 damage to surrounding enemies, which is again great because she has so much front-loaded damage. And finally, we're on to the red items, or legendary items. Of course most legendaries are useful, however Loader has a few specifics that are especially good on her. The first and most important one is the Hardlight Afterburner. This gives her utility, her primary damage ability, 3 total charges, giving her both unrivaled damage and mobility. The next items are Frost Relic and Unstable Tesla Coil. These both help because, as stated previously, she's exclusively melee, forcing her to be in range range of both of these abilities 99% of the time. Since Loader's damage is put primarily into her utility, items such as Alien Head and Brain Slots help tremendously, as they reduce the cooldown of the utility by 25% or down to 0.5 seconds respectively. The final rare item that's great on Loader is the Sentient Meat Hook. Meat Hook is on the same boat as ATG and Bands in the fact that it does total damage. However, Meat Hook is even better in the fact that it'll pull enemies to the swords, often letting the hooked enemies get hit by the 100% total damage hook and the sword gauntlet damage. Since Loader's damage is front-loaded, it will do the full damage of the initial sword up to 10 surrounding enemies, making it an essentially more effective ATG. Now on to the more niche yet still relevant yellow items, or boss items. Now since pretty much all boss items are relevant on every character, we'll only be covering two. The Little Disciple is good on Loader since she can sprint while charging her gauntlet and weave its sprinting in between her auto attacks. And since they shoot more wisp the more movement speed you have, since you already build movement speed on Loader, it's like an icing on top of the genocidal cake. The other yellow item is Myrder, and it's simply because Loader is a melee champion, giving her both pseudo wither effect and a lifesteal effect to the nearest enemy. Last but not least are the lunar items. Lunar items contain good and bad items, so I'll be including both of them here. The best item for Loader in the lunar category is Purity, since her primary damage is centered around her abilities and Purity almost halves it. However, I cannot recommend this item if you have ATGs, Meat Hooks, or any other important chance-based item. It is essentially a last resort to save a run. The worst items on Loader are Brittle Crown, Hooks of Heresy, and Strides of Heresy. Since she's a melee fighter, she's constantly taking damage, making Brittle Crown next to useless, and since her damage relies on her utility and momentum for her secondary, replacing them hurts her kits even more than it helps. Basically, absolute no-nos. We're finally in the game. Feels good. Alright, so Loader's early game. It's pretty alright, there's not a ton to talk about. However, this is where it's best to utilize mobility to save time and increase your damage. Focus on flying enemies over ground enemies, since Loader has plenty of AoE to take care of the beetles/Lemurians. Focus on picking up movement speed and don't worry too much about stacking items like Kirk glasses or teddy bears just yet. Mid-game. This is where Loader makes or breaks. If you can handle stage 4 to 5 well, you are set up for a half-decent run. If you're struggling, this is why I recommend going for something like Purity or all-ending a printer full of glasses/bands. You'll need a crutch most likely. This is where you want to start looking at the bigger picture, developing your build. Go for bands, crit, tri-tips, sticky bombs, mobility scalers like wax, quail, goat hoof, and energy drinks. These will stack up rapidly and you'll notice the damage skyrocket. Late game. This is where Loader really shines. Remember to time going on Malchites and be wary of run-enders like Fire Elite Golem, overloading Magma Worms, Malchite Whiffs, etc, etc. Remember Loader has to get in dangerous territory before she can prosper, so be wise about what fights you pick. Now we're on to combos. This part's gonna be short but sweet, and memorizing these combos may save you in the long run. Combo 1. A basic combo where Loader is grabbing onto some pillar or ceiling and using the momentum to carry you into a monster taking enemy. This is useful, especially early game where you need to juice out every bit of damage you can. Combo 2. This requires Pylon. This is an extension of Combo 1 with an extra step. Assuming there's no ceiling or pillar, a great example being stage 4 to 5, then you may want to try out using a Pylon as a pivot. Simply charge up your gauntlet, throw out your Pylon, sprint, grapple onto the Pylon, sprint again and swing until you're at full momentum. Then let go of the grapple and let go of your gauntlet to do roughly 30% more damage to the target if done properly. Now we're on to Combo 3. This requires Thunder Gauntlet and Thunder Slam. Let's say you don't have a Pylon but it's at Slam, we can still make it work. Simply charge up your gauntlet, hook onto the enemy with Spiked Fist, sprint while you're reeling in, and just before you collide with the enemy, release so you can use your full velocity to hit the enemy. Once you hit the enemy, sprint towards them and use your special. If done properly, you should have either killed them or dealt plenty of damage to them, in which case you wait for your cooldowns to perform it again. There are plenty more varieties, but these are the ones I'd memorize if you want to know the basics of Loader. Movement. Oh man, when I say this part's a little bit complicated, I mean it. Basically, Loader has momentum physics, but that doesn't completely account for her entire kit. So let's see here. First things first, a simple swing is when you jump and hook onto terrain or an enemy. Think of the hook like the radius and your body being the diameter. If you think of it like this, it will help you predict where you'll end up when your feet leave the ground. This is crucial, since you have to use it for most parts of the stages if you want to traverse in more ways than just using them thick thighs. When moving while hooked, you can go in several directions, each changed by what keys you hold down during the action. The next part is how momentum is carried through various actions. The easiest way to do this is by charging up a gauntlet and swinging from a pivot point and seeing your speed. If done correctly, you should fucking fly across the map, since the velocity stack literally insets you into orbit. If done poorly, you'll probably slow down or lose a lot of your speed quickly. This is because instead of the momentum stacking, it's instead setting your speed value to a different integer, aka killing your momentum just giving you speed. In general, as long as you keep your momentum and don't change your angle too drastically when you turn, you should be fine. Also, if you're flying too fast in a certain direction, you can use slam, grapple, or gauntlet in the opposite direction to cease your momentum that way. Certain moves can be performed and I'll go over the basic ones. The first one would be skating. Now this is a simple mechanic done by grappling onto a ledge that is higher than Loader's current position. This will make Loader slide along the ground, increasing momentum drastically. The next move is momentum resetting. This is acquired by using your grapple to swing from a leverage point to leverage point. This is a great macro move if you're trying to traverse terrain quickly. If you want to do smaller movements, simply grappling onto faraway objects and letting go at the right time should do it. Of course, when you let go is dictated by how far you want to travel. A note that should be taken is that downward momentum does not stack with Loader's Gauntlet momentum. This means that if you use your Gauntlet's charge downwards, it will not increase the travel time of the Gauntlet and instead reset your momentum altogether. The last move I'm going to be covering is what other communities call trimping. Or since I want to make it my own vocabulary, we'll be calling it bopping since it's not quite a B-hop. Bopping is when you increase your momentum on slope. It is a simple way to gain massive height, turning most of your forward momentum into upwards momentum. If you would like more momentum details, I would check out 2Bit's Momentum Guide. It covers more of the technical aspect, while I'll cover more of the logistical aspect. That should do it though. I hope you all enjoy it. I spent a ton of time making this, and any feedback or support would be great. So, like, do that like and subscribe thing YouTubers always tell you to do, and follow my Twitch if you like my voice so much. Yes, that goes to you totally, not Paul. Alright, see ya nerds.